Jai. Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Govinda Jiyo Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Jiyo Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiyo Ki Jai. Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai. Shri Nishringa Bhagavan Ki Jai. Jai Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Mahabhagavad Srila Gaurkishore Das Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnav Sarvabhaum Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gauri Vedanta Charya Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Srila Narottam Srinivas Yamananda Prabhu Trai Ki Jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sada Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Sarup Damodar Roy Ramananda Adi Gaur Parsada Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Dasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadvitam Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Varashavanatmaka Shri Braj Mandala Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiyo Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Kshetra Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Shri Nishringadev Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charudam Charu Sampradaya Charu Acharya Ki Jai. Akara Mat Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Or Ananya Shaka Mat Samuha Ki Jai. Shri Vishva Vaishnava Raj Sabha Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Tribhuvana Pavana Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So many words. I miscalculated.
The fire just began.
That's why. Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabhadanya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasvacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Gurudev Nitya Lila Pravishto Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Siksha Gurudevs Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering my same Dandavat Pranams to all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So there were two verses that we read and somewhat discussed from the 11th canto, 20th chapter, verses 27 and 28, which are very worthy of being memorized and meditated upon by the devotees. This is under the section of the duty of householders before becoming completely dedicated devotees. So there's different two types of householders. Ones that are completely dedicated devotees, and ones that are not yet completely dedicated devotees. So, this is the category of householders before they become completely dedicated. Completely dedicated, I think you can say in Sanskrit, means Sharanagata. Sharanagata. Completely dedicated, completely surrendered. This is, we're reading the Upadeshamrita commentary of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, which he wrote in 12 different essays. And this is the final one in this group of 12 that we're reading. And they are pertaining to the two shlokas, sloka number 2 and 3 of Upadeshamrita, of the 6 favorable and the 6 unfavorable activities and qualities for the Vaishnava. And the final one is called what? Sadhuvritti or Satovritte. Satovritte in the verse, and it's referred to as Sadhuvritti, which means Sadhu Vritti.
Following the example of sadhu.
Yes. the behavior, the achar of sadhus, to follow that in our life. So, to review, we're going to read these two verses again. Sri Krishna in 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam has spoken about how a householder devotee is to behave as long as he is not completely dedicated and his desires for sense gratification have not been thoroughly destroyed. Jata Shraddho Mat Kathasu Nirvinna Sarvakarmasu Veda Dukatmakan Kaman Parityage Pyanishvaraha Tato Bhaje Tamam Prita Shraddhalur Dridha Nishchaya Jushamanas Chatan Kaman Dukko Darkams Chagarhayan. Translation: a sadhak who has developed faith in narrations about me and who is disgusted with all kinds of fruitive activity may still be unable to give up material enjoyment and the desire for such enjoyment. He's disgusted with it, but he may still be unable to give up material enjoyment and the desire for such enjoyment. Now the second verse is telling, knowing that such so-called pleasures are actually sources of misery. He knows this. This is a very important development. He knows this. He's convinced about this. That what? All these so-called pleasures are actually sources of misery. Do we understand that? I think we've had quite a lot of experience, isn't it? Who could ever say that they have not experienced this in this material world? Huh? If they try to say that, they're not being honest. Because everyone is suffering constantly from what? Yes, thank you. 3 types of miseries. Yes, this is a science, the science of discerning different types of miseries. You'll not find this science in other religions. But in the Vaishnava religion, with the Shastras, this science, it is very clear. There are 3 types. I remember first learning this. And what else can you say? Yeah. I understand that one. Yeah, I've experienced that one. In fact, I'm kind of always experiencing it all the time. And what did Srila Sanatana Goswami ask before Mahaprabhu began to give him his 2-month-long dissertation? He asked 3 questions.
Who am I?
Yes.
Why am I suffering?
Oh, we need the microphone. Yeah. First question was,
who am I?
Who am I? And second question,
why am I suffering?
From? He specified, why am I always suffering from the threefold miseries? Tapatroy. Troy means 3. So tap. 3 types of miseries. And then the third question, also an important question.
What is the goal of life and the process to achieve it?
No. That's Mahaprabhu asking Ramananda Roy.
Okay. What is...
It's a little tricky, but there's a third question pertaining to the first 2 questions. What?
How can I stop the suffering?
No.
Jago, what was that?
How
here's the question. If I don't understand the answer to these first two questions, who am I and why am I always suffering from the threefold miseries, then how can I truly benefit myself?
That's a good question.
Yes. If I don't understand, then how will I be able to benefit myself? I won't be able to. Because it's so fundamental thing to understand who am I. that has to be grasped in order to go any further. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Ji. Who am I? Can you remember before you became a devotee in your own search and your own life? Can you remember in some way asking that question?
I was 3 when I first asked that question.
You were 3. You were 3 years old when you asked that question. Give her the
For
mic.
the first time?
The damage is done.
The damage is done. I think one of the most painful and significant things for those of us who grew up in an age when Prabhupada hadn't come to the West yet was that we had the question. We had the question. And in every corner there was no answer. So, yeah, and then after a while you just get discouraged, like, well, then maybe there's no answer.
Right.
And it was really scary at that point. And luckily, Srila Prabhupada came and saved us at that point. But
Yeah.
I think it's one of the, and hopefully that will never happen again, that people can have to ask that question with no answers available.
Right. No answers.
In every corner of society, no answers available.
Even in religion.
In religion, yeah, especially in religion.
Right.
And then universities and every scholarship, philosophy, no answers. Yeah.
No answers.
Yeah.
This is so true.
My father tricked me. I was 3 when I first asked the question. And he said, well, you're a child, you're a person, you came from your mother's womb. And, he was trying to explain. And then I said, no, who am I now and who was I before? And he said, oh, I don't know. He said, but if you learn how to read, then you'll learn these answers in books. So at 3, he started teaching me to read. So at 4, I was reading.
Wow.
And so I was reading. And of course, we were going to church. We were really, really involved in church activities. And I asked this question everywhere to everybody. Reading the Bible, which made absolutely no sense to me, until I read the Bhagavad Gita, then it made a little sense.
How old were you then?
When I read the Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah.
Oh, that was when I became a devotee. The Bible made sense, but through my childhood, I could not make sense of it, and I was embarrassed and shy to. But even now, I can hardly make sense of it. But now that we have more information, it makes a little bit of sense. So then I got to high school or something, and I told my father, I'm reading a lot of books and it's not happening. He made this promise, and by 3, I had never asked a question that wasn't answered. It just wasn't in, so I was like astounded that there was these questions that couldn't be answered. And so then he goes, oh, no, now you have to get to college. So then he got me, so then I worked real hard in school, I got to college. And then I walked into my first philosophy class. It was called Philosophy 101. And I was thinking, oh, okay, finally. And the professor walks in, he's a Harvard graduate. And he was like chain smoking on his way down to the platform, shaking because he just had his 7th nervous breakdown, apparently. And he went shaky chalkboard in like this $1 million auditorium. He writes, "Nobody knows," in letters this big. And then I was just like, Nobody knows in response to what? To the question. Oh, you asked the question. No, we all had the question, or that was the question That was the question of the time. What are we doing? And so he just answered the first day of class, nobody knows.
Oh my God.
And that's how, and then I was just like, oh, forget it.
Whoa.
And I was just like, forget it. And I made a promise to myself I would not live past 21 years old if I didn't get some answers. Because what was the use?
Yeah.
There was no use.
What's it all about?
Because according to Western civilization, apparently there wasn't a reason. There was no reason.
Yeah,
no
that's
rhyme
true.
or reason. So what's the use of, what's the use? And so just before my 21st birthday, a devotee came and gave me a Bhagavad Gita.
Wow.
And then I immediately, I had got the appropriate answers.
Did you get your answer from reading the Bhagavad Gita or from a combination of reading the Gita, being with devotees, and so forth?
There was a combination. I had received the Maha Mantra. A devotee gave me a card, a mantra card, and I didn't know what it meant or anything, but I loved to say it. So like I would run around.
So similar to my story.
I taught all my friends. We would sing this.
Where were you located?
Walla Walla, Washington. I went to school at Walla Walla.
Washington.
Walla Walla, Washington.
Okay.
So we didn't know what it was though. So there was definitely a combination. And one night, somehow or other, I was in the mountains in a cabin all alone, and there was a report on the radio that someone had escaped from the penitentiary and was wandering around in the Blue Mountains, and that's where I was. and so I started chanting Hare Krishna, like in a way for protection. And then I thought, what am I doing? I don't even know what this thing is, this prayer is, this mantra is. Wow. And then I thought, oh, this is extremely powerful, because immediately the fear went away. Yeah. And then I thought, oh, this is something way bigger.
You were by yourself in that?
Just that one night I happened to be alone. It never happened very often, but I was alone in the mountains, and I was really scared. And yeah, so anyway, there was a combination. And I also got 3 BTGs. At the time I got the Bhagavad Gita. So that was really easy to read. I read those like immediately, and I ran around the library of my school. We were all studying for something, and so everyone in the school was in the library that night. I went around, everyone I knew, I told them, look at this, we're this body, we're spirit soul, we're servants of Krishna. We don't, when we die, we don't discontinue to exist. We just go on to another body. And I went running around, and it was really interesting because they were, all the people I told, I must have told 20 people. Wow. Nobody was interested, but they were all very polite. Yeah. So later on I thought, well, I was sorry that no one was interested, but nobody was mean or not polite, even though I was like this weirdo running around the library going, look at this BTG, oh my God, look at this magazine, we're not this body, we're spiritual. Yeah, so it was a combination of things. Krishna's mercy.
You know, it's interesting what you just said, because when you were explaining about how the professor wrote, nobody knows, on the chalkboard, right? And then that was a very great disappointment, because then what's the use of our existence? You know what that is? That's like the third question of Sanatana Goswami.
That's why.
If I don't know the answer to these 2 questions, how can I benefit myself? What's the use of going on living?
There isn't the use.
Right.
And our whole civilization was that way. Our whole civilization was that way, and no one can understand it unless they've been through it. Well,
it's still that way.
Well, I think now someone could just Google, who am I?
Well, that's true. In that sense,
it won't happen again like it happened with us. We actually didn't have any answers anywhere, in any corner, because...
That's why Prabhupada kept on saying that the scientists, although they have big PhDs, they're actually completely ignorant. You know, he said, PhD, what does that stand for? Plow department. Now you're capable, you've got so much knowledge from your master's and PhD degree that now you can push a plow across the land. You're qualified.
Some of them couldn't even do that. Remember when the devotee prophet said, big brain,
So they can hear you.
big brain and can't even make a chapati? He was teasing somebody.
Yeah.
And so, so even they can't probably even farm. Anyway.
Yeah, so, such an interesting, that was in 74?
Did I join them? No, I got the book.
You got the book?
It may have been the end of 1974. I joined the temple in 1975 in Portland, because Walla was close to Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, that moment when that question starts to become answered.
It's like crazy. Yeah, that was amazing.
Because how can anyone know without hearing from the authority of the Vedas? No one, it's all speculation. And that speculation goes on in so many different religious denominations and Buddhism and impersonalism, the whole thing. It's all speculation. Who am I? Most people only were this body. But then some persons get a little bit further along and they hear some speculations about that we're energy and, that we can merge with the absolute and all of that. But it's all speculation.
Upendra,
Mike?
this is... This would have been very early, 1967. Upendra was Prabhupada's maybe first, servant, personal servant. He said, Prabhupada, Lao Tzu says, he who knows does not speak, and he who speaks does not know. And Prabhupada immediately said to him, well, by his own philosophy, then we should not believe it.
Exactly.
He says, he has spoken this, so why listen to it? He does not know.
I know, such nonsense. What is going around? And that's why, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada presenting the exact words of Krishna. If somebody starts to read that and they get to the verse, and just recently I heard Prabhupada quoting Dehi nosmin yata dehi. There's two verses that he would always quote from that section of the second chapter where Krishna begins to explain Atma Tattva to Arjuna. One of them is Dehi nosmin yata dehi. And the other one is, what is it now again? Najayate mriyate vakadachin. Ajo nityam shashvatoyam. He would always quote that line. Ajo nityam shashvatoyam purano na hanyamane sharire. It is not killed. This person who is in this body, he is not killed. Na hanyate means he is not killed. Hanyamane sharire, when the body is killed. He's not killed. That dehina, who lives in the body, right? So, those two verses extracted from the whole presentation of something like 20 or 25 verses, where Krishna keeps on explaining the soul cannot be cut to pieces, the soul cannot be dried, the soul cannot be any of these things. He's Shashvata. He's Aja, unborn, Shashvata, constantly existing, always existing. Nityam, eternal. Purana, ancient. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. He's not killed when the body's killed. So this is the truth. And who can speak that aside from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who knows all truth? He's the source of all truth. He is the supreme truth. So that urgent message of Bhagavad Gita, which how Srila Prabhupada presented that. There's so many lectures he's presented. Here is our philosophy. If you hear this philosophy, you are hearing directly from Krishna. I remember that one Yogi Bhajan, one of the founders of the Sikh kind of Western yoga followers, Yogi Bhajan. There was a recorded discussion between him and Srila Prabhupada. He came to invite Prabhupada. Did you know that? He came to invite Prabhupada to some kind of world conference of religions, right? Do you remember what Prabhupada told?
If Krishna is not the authority, then why would I go? Something like that? I remember right, he said, well, there must be an authority there. If Krishna is not the authority, if his Bhagavad Gita is, then I will not take it.
Yeah, he just kept on telling Yogi Bhajan that nothing will be conclusive. You will accomplish nothing. This person, this religion has his authority, they have their authority, like this. And therefore nothing will be accomplished. You will just talk and everyone will go away. Nothing will change. Oh no, Swamiji, no. We are very responsible. We are leaders of religion. So we have to unite together. And then there can be world peace and all of this. Prabhupada said that nothing will be accomplished. He said, I will come only on one condition. That everyone who is coming from any religious background, they have to accept Bhagavad Gita as the authority of all of our discussions. Otherwise, I will not come. Because it is the authority. Everything else is a shadow, a speculation, you know. All right, so who am I? Is an important question. And why am I always suffering? So for those who've embraced the path of bhakti, that question still has to be answered, because if a devotee is thinking that the world is my oyster, as they say, you know, and I can go out into the world and just enjoy my senses, then he hasn't gone very far in understanding the philosophy given by Krishna. Because Krishna himself is saying that this world is, two words are used, dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Dukkhalayam means what? Full of dukkha, suffering. Krishna himself is certifying this material world is full of dukkha, suffering. So any person that, like, you know, that one little book we printed once called The Fool's Paradise. Happiness in a Fool's Paradise. Yeah, it's got a certain kind of cover on it. So happiness in a fool's paradise. This is a place of suffering. If you're going to try to assert that, no, this is a place of happiness. I've actually had discussions with people who don't want to accept that this is a place of suffering, right? No, we can enjoy. We're supposed to enjoy. And they even have some pseudo-spiritual understanding, you know. But you cannot change this. You cannot change it just by your certification, just by your insistence. It is a place of suffering. And then even Krishna says, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar arvartano arjuna. From Brahmaji's planet, in the topmost position in our universe, down to the lowest. Down to the lowest, all are places of misery where repeated birth and death take place. But those who attain to my abode never return to this material world again. So, even Lord Brahma, whatever one achieves in this material world will always be fraught with misery. So especially on this plane, in the middle area, the middle region of the material universe, there are upper and lower, and we're in the middle. 14 different planetary systems, right? And we're in the middle. This is the area of karma, action, where you are acting and you have to get the results of your action. This is the middle. In the upper planetary systems, what's going on there? They've already acted, they've accrued enough pious credits to remain there for a certain period of time, just as your money can allow you to remain in a high-class hotel. But when your money runs out, you have to leave. So the upper planetary systems, Svargalok, and they have different names, they can only stay there as long as their pious credits have not been used up. Because the enjoyment there is not producing any karma. It's not producing any suffering. Okay? It's just enjoying the results of your pious activities. So there's lots of enjoyment there. And mostly it's sensual enjoyment on a very subtle and very high level, far, far beyond any kind of enjoyment that you can get on this level with this gross physical body. So that's why so many people want to go there. Just heavenly enjoyment, and there's no sin being committed. On this plane, if someone has illicit sex, it's sin. They get punished for that. But in the upper planetary systems, the demigods, they're enjoying sensual, sexual, all of this. They're enjoying to an extreme degree, but there's no reaction. But what happens when the Kshine Punye Martya Lokam Vishanti? Krishna says that when the punya has been exhausted, your bank account has run out, then what happens? Martya Lokam Vishanti. Again, you have to come back down to this plane. And if someone, through very extensive sinful activities, gets demoted down into hellish planets, then they're suffering. They're suffering the results of those activities. So this is the plane of karma. And a devotee has to understand, in order to advance in bhakti, a devotee has to understand the true nature of this material world. His intelligence has to become purified. And he has to understand that this is inescapable on this plane. Everything is connected. Like Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, this is the land of loan. L-O-A-N. Because whatever you do, there's going to be a reaction, and you have to pay it back. You're taking a loan from the material universe, from the material world, by engaging your senses and trying to enjoy it. And that loan has to be paid back. There's a price that you pay. There's a price you have to pay. And then he said, not only that, but you have to pay it back with interest as well. Yeah, the land of loan. And also, he refers to this material level as the plane of exploitation. The plane of exploitation. And above this plane is the plane of renunciation, Gyan, whereby one wants to get liberation and freedom from the suffering of this plane of exploitation. So, but neither of these planes can fulfill one's desires, and they will only inflict more suffering. Exploitation and renunciation. Why renunciation? Because the end of renunciation is swinging back in the opposite direction of exploitation. You cannot just do renunciation and exist in that plane of renunciation. That's like the impersonalists wanting to merge into the impersonal absolute, if they even get that far. So, ultimately, there are two sides of the same coin. Exploitation, renunciation, exploitation, renunciation. But there's another plane, there's another land, as he calls it, the land of dedication. Dedication. This is the true land of the soul. Not renunciation, not exploitation and renunciation. That is not the property of the soul, of the eternal Atma. No. So they have to come to the level of giving up the attempt at both exploitation and renunciation and entering into the plane of dedication. That is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. That is the message of the Vedas. One has to enter into dedication based upon knowledge of who am I. Jiver Swarup Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das. This is Mahaprabhu's answer to Sanatana Goswami. Jiver Swarup Hoy. The Swarup of the Jiva, the Swarups, what is the meaning of Swarup? Your own form. Swarupa. Your own form. The form of the Jiva. The eternal function of the Jiva. Jiver Swarup Hoy. The Swarup of the Jiva is Krishner Nityadas, eternal servant of Krishna. And how do we know this? Jiver Tatasta Shakti Ved Abed Prakash. The very identity of the Jiva is what? The Tatasta, the marginal potency, the Tatasta Shakti of Krishna. This is the identity of the Jiva. That's what we are. We are Krishna's Tatasta Shakti. And being so, we have a specific type of relationship with Krishna, which is called Ved Abed Prakash. We are a Prakash, a manifestation of Krishna's Tatasta Shakti, Jiva Shakti, which can be in either the spiritual world or in the material world. We're Tatasta. We can go either direction. That's our particular identity. This is who we are. This is the answer to who are you. You're this. Ved Abed Prakash means that you are simultaneously different and non-different. We have a non-difference aspect, which, of course, the impersonalists, they want to fully capitalize on this. We are that. Tattvam Asi. You are that. They meditate upon being non-different, being one with impersonal absolute. But actually, we are also simultaneously different. And that's what they have to come to understand. So this is the basis of all proper philosophy, this one verse. All philosophy is based here. All questions can be answered in this verse. Krishna is the Supreme. We're His eternal servant. We have an eternal relationship with Him because we're His Tatasta Shakti. That will never, ever, ever change. We never become Him. We never become one with Him. But we're qualitatively non-different than Him. Christianity has no understanding of this at all. That we are actually the energy of the Supreme. We are one with Him and also separate from Him. Achintya Veda Tattva. So, this kind of knowledge of Siddhanta, perfect conclusive knowledge, is what we are. This is our life. To hear, to chant, to realize, to gain Gyan, Vigyan, and Tattva Siddhanta. Because Tattva Siddhanta is transcendental truth. It's transcendental truth. By hearing and by understanding and by realizing it, you will become transcendental. You'll rise above the modes of this material world. You'll rise above the bodily identification and everything. But that will happen by bhakti, not by gyan. It happens by dedication. So in the course of receiving this tattva gyan, the struggling devotee who has not yet fully dedicated himself, which is what we're reading about here, still has some desires for sense gratification, hasn't yet come to the point of perfect clarity, of understanding what is what, understanding tattva, right? But he has knowledge, but it has not penetrated deeply enough yet that he has become unaffected by the modes of nature which are producing these desires, material desires. But he knows already, he's experienced, and he knows that if I try to enjoy, enjoy means not giving Krishna enjoyment, but trying to enjoy for myself. There's legal and illegal enjoyment. But either of them, they're also will affect us. They also will have some reaction will be there. And that perception of suffering, which comes from that attempt to enjoy, the devotee knows this. He knows that this is what's going to happen. I'm going to have to suffer from this attempt to enjoy. And he knows that really I shouldn't try. He's that far along, but yet he can't do it yet. He's anishwaraha. He's unable to give that up at that point, right? So, what should he do? He has to condemn himself, knowing that such so-called pleasures are actually sources of misery. He should condemn himself while attempting to enjoy them. What are the words? Hi, hi. What's the other word? Fi on me. But there's a Sanskrit to that. I forget what the Sanskrit is. Fi on me, fi on me. That's an old British way of expressing, huh? Yes. Fi on me. How would we say that in a modern way? Huh? Boy. Alas, alas, fi on me. I am simply so low and so worthless. Fi on me, fi on me. So that's what helps that devotee, by reckoning in this way. This is really the fact. I'm a nonsense. I'm a nonsense, and everyone should just fi on me. So what happens then? Thereafter, well, he's condemning himself while attempting to enjoy them. He's still condemning, fi on me. Thereafter, in due course, he may be able to worship me with love, faith, and fixed determination. Shraddha lur dridha nishchaya. Tato bhajeta mam prita. With prita, priti, love, he worships me with strong faith, unshakable determination. Yes. Dukkodarkam garhayam. Jushamanas chatan kaman. So, after developing faith, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, Shraddha, after developing Shraddha, a householder is to accept initiation into Krishna mantra, because only the faithful are qualified to become devotees. They must possess the following 26 qualities. 26 qualities. I'm going to read, this is the Bengali and Sanskrit here from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Mahaprabhu is telling these to Sanatana Goswami. And then we'll read the translation. It's Bengali and Sanskrit? Well, yeah, because a lot of the Bengali words are Sanskrit words. Oh, okay. Kripalu, Agrita Droha, Satyasara Sama, Nirdosha Vadanya, Mridu Shuchi Akinchana, Sarvo Pakaraka, Shanta, Krishnaika Sharana, Akama, Niriha, Stira, Vijita Sadguna, Mita Buk Apramatta Manada Amani, Gambir Karuna Maitra Kavi Daksha Moni. So that's the list. And here's this translation. Vaishnavas. These are actually the 26 qualities of pure devotees. And of course, those who are not yet pure may not possess, especially the one that I pointed out the other day, Krishnaika Sharanam. Even if they possess 25, but they don't possess that one, then they're not yet pure devotees. Krishnaika Sharanam. Krishna Eka Sharanam. Wholeheartedly take shelter only of Krishna. Surrender to Krishna. So here's the list. Vaishnavas are merciful. They are not obstinate, completely truthful, non-biased, without fault, benevolent, even-tempered, clean, and possessionless. They work to bring about the auspiciousness of all, and they are peaceful, surrender to Sri Krishna, without material desires, indifferent to material gain, and steady. They have conquered the 6 material qualities, which are lust, anger, greed, etc. They eat only as much as they require, and they are sober, respectful, without false prestige, grave, compassionate, friendly, poetic, masterful, and silent. Householder Vaishnavas should associate with sadhus because Krishna Bhakti is manifested and nourished in such association. Although sadhana bhakti consists of 64 limbs, and one ought to follow those limbs according to one's capacity, an effort must be made to specifically follow 9-fold devotional service, which is called Navada Bhakti, 9-fold, and also 5-fold devotional service called Panchada Bhakti. And here's the quote from Mahaprabhu in the 22nd chapter of Madhya Lila, Sanatan Siksha, and he's saying these 5. What are the 5? Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Mathura Vas, Shri Murtir Shraddhaya Sevan. Then it describes that Sakala Sadhana Shreshta E Pancha Anga, Krishna Prema Janmai E Pancher Alpa Sangha. So these are the 5. So one is to associate with devotees, chant Harinam, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, reside in Mathura Mandala, and serve the deity with great faith. Of all the types of sadhana, these 5 limbs are best, for even slightly performing one of them awakens Krishna Prema. Yes, here it says, Krishna Prema Janmai E Pancher Alpa Sangha. Even a small amount of following this can awaken Krishna Prema. So we should always know that this process especially involves these 5. The lifestyle that we are living especially should always involve these 5. Sadhu Sangha, association of Vaishnavas, always chanting the holy names, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Mathura Vasa, living in a holy place, means temple also, and Shri Murtir Shraddhaya Sevan, serving Shri Murti, the Vigraha, the form of the Lord in the temple, with great Shraddha, with faith. And of all the different types of sadhana, these 5 limbs are best. It's called Sakala Sadhana Shreshta. Shreshta means topmost, best. A Pancha Anga, these 5, of all different types of sadhana. So, one is to gradually diminish his state of performing Vaidhi Bhakti and enter Rag Anuga Bhakti. One is to gradually diminish his state of performing Vaidhi Bhakti and enter Rag Anuga Bhakti. After deep attachment to Bhagavan has manifested, many vidhis, many rules go far away of their own accord. Many rules of the Vaidhi. When what? Deep attachment to Bhagavan has manifested. In that stage, there is no need to perform purificatory activities or any other such things. Although the mind of a person who has entered Ragamarg is never inclined to perform sinful acts, if by chance he does so due to the influence of ignorance, Bhagavan will mercifully purify him. You see? So householders should endeavor for Gyan that is related to Bhakti, or for Vairagya that is caused by Bhakti, and not for any other Gyan or Vairagya. So this is our lesson from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur today. Very concentrated, very focused and concentrated. And tomorrow we'll continue with this section by reading various other quotes from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jai Shri Shri Upadeshamritam ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Pada ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanand.